Hey everyone, it's Isaac Smolden, the production manager here at My House. Just a heads up that today's episode of My Voice is part one of a two-part series with our guest. For part two, please tune in 2 weeks from the day that this episode releases. My Voice is a chance for those who have struggled with addiction, homelessness, depression, and domestic violence to have a candid conversation about their life experience, current situation, and future goals and aspirations. Every episode is conducted anonymously to facilitate a comfortable and safe place for guests to tell their story. My Voice is hosted by Mike Sisson, who works as a case manager at the My House facilities in Wasilla, Alaska. We now join a My Voice conversation, already in progress.
If you had to choose between laughing uncontrollably every time somebody gave horrible news to you, like without being able to control it, like someone comes up to you and they're like, my mom just died, and you start laughing hysterically. If you had to choose between doing that for the rest of your life or screaming out random obscenities in settings when you're supposed to be quiet, which one would you choose?
Well, I would choose the obscenities because I feel like it's less, it's not as like I'm laughing at you. I'm like getting people to laugh at me, you know? Okay. So I would choose that, yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty good answer. Do you attend church ever?
No.
Do you ever attend, how about meetings?
24/7.
So what about in a meeting when someone's sharing and you just yell out obscenities? You're cool with that?
Oh, yeah, no, totally. Like with like the settings, with certain meetings, totally fine.
Okay. All right. Well, I respect it. You put some serious thought into that. I don't know what I would choose because I attend a lot of meetings and events where it's expected that you're quiet. And I also attend church. So if I couldn't control yelling out obscenities in the middle of church, that would definitely be problematic for me. Although I would absolutely not want to be around people if I uncontrollably laughed when they gave me bad news. So it's kind of like an impossible situation.
Well, you could, like, in uncomfortable situations or sad situations, like if you were to, like, say something obscene, like, it'd be fitting for that.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, laughing-wise, like, they could be like, dude, what the heck? Like, that's mean. You know, so
you have a small percentage of a chance of the person just laughing with you, though.
Yeah.
So it could work out. You might hit the right moment, and they're just like, they're okay with it. You know, I don't know. That's a pretty good answer. I like that. Where are you from?
I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. I grew up there for a majority of my life. 1 year, I went and lived in Fairbanks. And then I returned to Anchorage, and then I moved out in the valley when I turned 18.
Okay. When you were born, you said you were born in Anchorage. What was the setting? Were you born with both your parents in the picture? Were you born to a single mom? What was the setting?
I believe, so I'm adopted.
Okay.
I believe the setting was like when I was born, it was my mom and my dad, my birth parents. But that didn't last long because my mom just handed me and my siblings off to my dad. And then my dad was, like, both my parents were active in addiction. So when my mom passed me and my siblings to my dad just gave us to a family friend. And then I ended up in OCS custody from there.
Okay. How many siblings did you have?
I have 6 siblings, biologically, 2 adoptive.
Okay, so when your mom gave you and your siblings, there was 7 of you that got transferred to your dad?
Mm-hmm.
And then a family friend, when he decided to have you guys go with a family friend, do you know if there, I mean, it was a long time ago, obviously. Was there reasoning behind it? Did he just decide, I can't do this?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his reasoning was that he just wanted to drink and he couldn't stop drinking. And the family friend that he gave us to was sober but not a good person.
Oh, that is terrible.
It did not last long at all. So I was a jail baby. When my mom was pregnant with me, she was in jail.
Wow.
And I see that as a blessing because my siblings have really bad FAS, and due to my mom being in jail, mine isn't as bad. So I see that as a plus of her being in a safe place and not drinking. But it didn't. I was still an infant by the time I went to OCS custody because I don't know how OCS got involved, but in that household with that guy, there was sexual abuse and physical abuse and neglect.
Wow.
And so, like I have random marks on my body. I don't know where they came from. Burn marks, scars due to being in that household when I was an infant. So it did not last long. And me and my siblings were split up. 2 of my siblings aged out of the OCS system instead of being adopted. One of them died due to alcoholism, and the other one that aged out is still in addiction. But basically all my siblings are in addiction right now. And I am the only one so far that has got sober. So, yeah, they are taking our childhood trauma and everything really hard, and they don't know how to process it. And, due to being in the system, like I was the only one who actually got adopted at a young age. Majority of my siblings got adopted or guardianship when they were teenagers. And so they are very emotionally and mentally distraught. And so they have a hard time connecting and a hard time reaching out. And so they're all doing their own thing, all drinking and everything. And it's really sad because they reach out to me for help and like for money and stuff. And, I'm in a program, and it says in that program that it is too close for us to be able to properly help someone in our family, and that we can provide resources and tell them that we love them. But other than that, we are not in control of them and what they do, and that is their choice. And so it's really hard, like when they reach out to me and they're struggling, and I just tell them resources. I tell them that I love them and that I've been sober for over a year now, and I just like let them see that, yes, we're from the same bloodline, and yes, my whole biological family struggles with addiction, but I'm doing it and you can do it too. So, yeah, I got into the family that I'm in now when I was 2. So from an infant to 2, I was in and out of foster care. I was, they say I was in, 12 houses before I was 2. And by the time I reached the family that I'm in, I was 2, and they adopted me when I was 7. And I've been with them since. And I see, like, it's like a rose, there's thorns and there's like safety and peace at the same time with being adopted by this family. Because, the family that I was adopted into is very sick. But at age 16, OCS got involved again due to abuse, physical abuse. And OCS gave me an ultimatum of going back into the system or go into treatment to not be near my mom. And I would rather choose go to treatment than go back into the system and experience what I experienced there. because I'd rather deal with like that physical abuse and like mental abuse rather than like sexual abuse and everything that was experienced in the system.
So I'm going to rewind just a little bit. First of all, congratulations on being over a year sober.
Thank you.
Incredible. People always, my entire time that I've spent in recovery, AA meetings, NA meetings, whatever the case may be, wherever I was, people who I knew, my own experience and the experience of other people I've talked with that they've shared is that the first year was their hardest.
Absolutely.
And it is a big, big milestone. Like first 30 days, pretty big deal. Also, not still to me as hard as the first year. That year mark feels like an eternity to get there. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah. So like the first 30 days was definitely difficult because you are still mentally obsessed. And I think for the first 3 months you are, like when you first stop drinking, you get sober, there's that mental obsession, like I have become so reliant upon alcohol to numb myself out and to like drown my thoughts and feelings. And so those first 3 months was hell because I was actually feeling my emotions, thinking thoughts, being aware of where I'm at, And so those first 3 months were not easy. And 3 months, 6 months, those milestones were really hard because the last time I tried getting sober, I almost got 6 months and then I relapsed. And so this time around, I was terrified of those milestones because the last time I relapsed and I did not want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there were close calls for sure. But like due to like being in a program, having a higher power, a sponsor, it's definitely helped like get me through those hard moments, and the women I have in my life have definitely helped guided and were just there for me. So it was hell.
Yeah. And I want to highlight two things you said. You said that you drowned your sorrows and your feelings and thoughts and you wanted to numb yourself. And that's common language used for people who drink. I've said that myself. And recently I've realized that, it's not really true. We don't actually numb anything. We mostly intensify it when we drink. Mostly what we're going for is the not remembering any of it when we wake up. Mm-hmm. Because when we drink, everything becomes tenfold what it was prior. Mm-hmm. We just get to experience it and then not remember it when we wake up.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of speak on that for a second because it's a common misconception. And a lot of people also, I've heard people say, I drink because it makes me happy. It makes me happier. It's scientifically, it's a depressant. Mm-hmm. So it does not do that for people who use it for that purpose. It tends to have the opposite reaction. And then you said you were grateful for the women in your life. And I just wanted to focus on that too, because anybody going through something, it doesn't really matter the gender of the people who are helping you. And there is something profoundly important when you surround yourself with, like for me, with other men who have walked through what I've walked through, and for you, other women who have walked through what you've walked through. It is very profound and important, and it oftentimes helps you to get a foundation that you couldn't get if it was you were like, I rarely have heard. Actually, I can't think right now, if I'm being honest, I can't think of one time I heard somebody said, who was a female, who was like, I'm thankful for all the men in my life who helped me out. I'm so thankful for the rocks of the men in my life that were there for me. It's they commend their fellow women who helped them. And the same with the men. and granted, it's not absolute. It's not that no man helped you.
Yeah,
It's not that no woman ever helped me. But there is something profound when you have a group of people, men, women, supporting each other towards that same common goal. It's just irreplaceable.
Oh, yeah.
Now let's go back one more time. You went through some pretty horrific things, and you said them in a very graceful way. I just want to commend you for going through what you went through. Being a year in recovery, you don't accidentally get there.
No, totally not.
This whole past year, you have absolutely, even though I wasn't with you, alongside you the whole time, I can pretty much make an educated guess that over this year, you've been dealing with not just recovery, not just addiction, but your mental health, your trauma, healing, and a whole other laundry list of things that you had to do and walk through and work through to get to that year mark.
Oh, yeah. Yes, there's addiction, but I believe that alcoholism, it's not the alcohol itself, it's my thoughts, my brain, the way I think, the way I process things. And so to be, for me to be in recovery and not drink, I also need to correlate with not drinking, but also working on myself mentally, physically, all these different aspects. And, with the program I'm in, you process through resentments and, all these different things of why you feel the way you feel and why you think the way you think. And just this past year, I have nitpicked every little thing and processed through, instead of just ignoring it or putting it on the side.
Yes.
That childhood trauma, the trauma I experienced while drinking and all of that, just, and the whole aspect of, a big part of it was a higher power, because I put myself in this cage, relying only on myself and my thoughts and feelings. I was restricting myself. And, with being in recovery this time and having a spiritual awakening and finding a higher power, I am not in charge anymore, and I don't have to control every little thing. And it is not on me and my willpower for me to be sober today. And so with working with someone on the trauma, the mental disorders, because I had a lot of those growing up, just not putting myself in this box and letting myself grow has definitely helped. And self-exploration, just really finding out what I'm interested in, finding out who I am, because I had no clue where I belonged, who I was. And so with having a clear mind now and not obsessing over all the negative things in my life has definitely helped. Not being a pessimist, majority of my life I was pessimistic, and I focused intentionally on being depressed, having anxiety, the abuse I experienced, I was putting myself in this box. And a big part of recovery is gratitude, just realizing all the opportunities and amazing things that I've experienced so far in life. Yes, those bad things did happen. Let's not discount those. But at the same time, seeing all the great things in my life that are going on has definitely helped me get through everything.
So, hold up. Wait. Stop the press. I think what I just heard you say was that you intentionally focused on depression and negativity.
Yep.
So you're telling me that you can choose to focus on good things and positive as well.
Mm-hmm. It's two-sided. So you could either choose to just focus on all the horrible things that are going on in your life, or to see the silver lining in everything, you know, like seeing like, yeah, this was horrible, but out of that, I learned this or I got this, you know, it's not like all just like one bad thing. Like you get something out of it, even if it's bad.
So you're telling me there's a chance. No, I really think that is profound, and you're speaking so much of my language right now. One of my favorite quotes I use, and the first time I ever heard it, I actually read it it was in like these adhesive letters, and it was spelled out across the top of a wall in a children's pastor's office in Hawaii at a church called King's Cathedral. Pastor Kirsten Davis, if you're listening to this ever, I've never forgotten this phrase, and I don't even know where it originated from, but it read, "Attitude is the difference between adventure and ordeal." Mm-hmm. And I have found that to be so unequivocally true in my life. What's going on around me, the way I respond to it can change how I go through it.
Exactly.
And turn it from an ordeal to an adventure. And so the fact that you just said that to me is so powerful. And I want to encourage you, anytime you talk to anybody, you say stuff like that, encourage people in that way. You're pretty wise. I didn't realize that about you. You're pretty wise. You're like a little Yoda over there with all your wisdom coming out.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of My Voice. For local services here at my house, please call 373-4357. That's 373-HELP.